The arena fell silent as two titans stepped into the ring that fateful evening in 1992. The air crackled with electricity you could practically taste, and every soul in attendance knew they were about to witness something extraordinary. In one corner stood Brandon Lee, 27 years old and carrying the weight of his father's legendary legacy on his shoulders. Bruce Lee's son had been training his entire life for moments like this, combining the lightning-fast techniques of Jeet Kune Do with his own innovative street fighting adaptations. His lean, muscular frame moved with the fluid grace of a panther, each step calculated and purposeful. Those who had sparred with Brandon described his speed as supernatural, his kicks arriving before opponents even registered the movement beginning. But speed wasn't his only weapon. Brandon possessed something deeper, more dangerous than pure athleticism. He fought with the controlled fury of someone who had everything to prove and nothing to lose. His psychological game was ruthless, using his piercing stare and calculated silence to unnerve opponents before the first blow was thrown. Training under his father's closest disciples had forged him into a complete fighter, equally devastating with his fists, feet, and fighting intellect. Yet Brandon carried vulnerabilities that experienced fighters could exploit. His aggressive style sometimes left him overextended, and his emotional investment in proving himself worthy of the Lee name could cloud his tactical judgment. Against lesser opponents, these flaws remained hidden. Tonight, however, he faced someone who had built a career on exposing such weaknesses. Chuck Norris entered from the opposite side, 32 years old and radiating the quiet confidence of a man who had conquered every challenge martial arts could offer. The Texas Ranger stood 6 feet tall, his stocky frame packed with explosive power developed through decades of relentless conditioning. His record spoke volumes. 6-time world middleweight karate champion, undefeated in tournament competition for 6 consecutive years, and the rare fighter who had earned respect from every martial arts discipline. Norris fought with the precision of a Swiss watchmaker and the devastation of a demolition expert. His Tang Soo Do background provided him with devastating kicks, while his boxing training had sharpened his hand techniques to razor-sharp effectiveness. But Chuck's greatest asset wasn't physical. His tactical mind could dissect an opponent's patterns within seconds, identifying weaknesses and exploiting them with surgical precision. The psychological warfare had begun long before they entered the ring. Chuck possessed an almost supernatural calm that unnerved opponents, making them question their own abilities before the fight even started. He had faced pressure situations countless times and thrived under the bright lights when everything was on the line. However, age and experience came with their own burdens. At 32, Chuck wasn't quite as explosive as he had been in his prime tournament days. His methodical style, while effective, could be predictable against opponents quick enough to adapt. Tonight, he faced the fastest fighter he had ever encountered. The opening bell shattered the tension like breaking glass. Brandon exploded forward immediately, launching a series of blindingly fast jab combinations that forced Chuck to retreat toward the ropes. The younger fighter's strategy was clear: overwhelm Norris with speed and aggression before the veteran could settle into his rhythm. His punches whistled through the air with audible force, each one designed to test Chuck's defensive reactions. But Norris had anticipated this approach. He absorbed the initial assault on his arms and gloves, studying Brandon's timing while giving ground strategically. When Lee committed to a particularly aggressive right cross, Chuck slipped inside and landed a thunderous body shot that echoed throughout the arena. The crowd gasped as Brandon's forward momentum stuttered for the first time. The second round revealed Chuck's tactical genius in full display. Rather than matching Brandon's frenetic pace, he began using angles and footwork to disrupt the younger fighter's rhythm. Every time Lee tried to establish his lightning combinations, Norris would step offline and counter with precise, measured strikes. A crisp jab snapped Brandon's head back. A perfectly timed leg kick buckled his front knee. Chuck was systematically downloading his opponent's fighting patterns. Brandon adapted quickly, switching to the unconventional techniques that made Jeet Kune Do so unpredictable. He began mixing high kicks with low sweeps, throwing punches from impossible angles that seemed to defy physics. One spectacular spinning back fist grazed Chuck's temple, drawing the first real reaction from the stoic veteran. The crowd erupted as both fighters began finding their range simultaneously. By the fourth round, the tactical chess match had evolved into something more primal. Brandon's youth and conditioning were beginning to tell as his combinations grew more complex and devastating. He landed a picture-perfect sidekick that sent Chuck stumbling backward, followed immediately by a hook kick combination that barely missed ending the fight. The momentum seemed to be shifting decisively in the young Lee's favor. Chuck's corner was shouting instructions, but their fighter appeared to be absorbing punishment at an alarming rate. Brandon's confidence was soaring as he began incorporating some of his father's signature techniques, including the devastating one-inch punch that had made Bruce Lee famous. When he landed a clean version of it to Chuck's solar plexus, even the veteran's legendary conditioning couldn't hide the damage. Then came the turning point that nobody saw coming. In the fifth round, with Brandon pressing forward aggressively to finish the fight, Chuck Norris did something that defied every scouting report and expectation. As Lee committed to what appeared to be a fight-ending combination, Norris didn't retreat or counter. Instead, he stepped directly into the attack, absorbing a clean shot to the jaw while simultaneously launching his own devastating counteroffensive. The exchange lasted perhaps 3 seconds, but it changed everything. Chuck's perfectly timed uppercut caught Brandon in the middle of his combination, lifting the younger fighter completely off his feet. Before Lee could recover, Norris followed with a leg kick so powerful it literally spun his opponent around. The crowd went absolutely wild as both fighters stood toe-to-toe, trading shots with reckless abandon. Chuck's experience became decisive. While Brandon possessed superior speed and technique, Norris had warrior instinct that emerges in genuine combat. He walked through Brandon's strikes, accepting punishment to deliver devastating replies. In the climactic exchange, Brandon launched one desperate combination that would have finished any opponent, but Chuck slipped the final strike and countered with a reverse punch that caught Lee flush. Brandon crumpled. Chuck won because he refused to be broken when defeat seemed inevitable.